Hello and welcome to Please Don't Eat the Sage. I'm your host, Michelle Shea Walker, intuitive coach and baby witch, here to help you demystify mysticism with the help of some very magical guests. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to point out that all interviews this season have a video counterpart. This is important to note both if you want to check out the link in the liner notes, and because my guests and I do reference a few things on screen for this particular episode. You'll still be able to follow along if you're listening with audio only, but if you'd like to see the kitten cameos, Capricorn symbols, and Cancerian facial expressions, click over to YouTube to enjoy the following conversation complete with visual aids. And now, on to episode 2. Welcome to season 2 of Please Don't Eat the Sage. This season we are doing a little deep dive into my baby witch territory of magic and rituals and witchcraft, and I'm inviting some of my favorite magical people onto the podcast for interviews. So for this episode we have Colin Bedell. Colin Bedell is a best-selling author, teacher, and speaker on the topics of astrology and relationships. As the co-founder of QueerCosmos, his commitment to racial, sexual, and gender inclusivity in spirituality has earned him praise from the likes of Well and Good magazine, who named him a 2020 innovator, as well as thousands of followers on Instagram like me, who tune in regularly for his animated and often choreographed takes on the stars. He has been featured in Good Morning America, New York Magazine, MTV, and TLC's Stargazing, as well as authored 3 high-ranking and best-selling books on the topic. He writes for Cosmopolitan.com and is featured as a season regular on Discovery Plus's Written in the Stars. Welcome, the very busy Colin Bedell.
Oh my God. Yes. Thank you so much, Michelle. And I loved your edits on that. I'm like, oh my God, they are choreographed. So you added a flair. I'm like, damn, I should pay you for that.
I'm working on my own book now, so I'm in that writer mind.
Oh, I loved it. Oh, thank you. It's such a joy to be here. And it's such a joy to connect to you because you are among like the first people I really remember actually collaborating with online with this work. I think it had to have been like 3 or 4 months into it. And, it wasn't necessarily Saturn in Aquarius yet. It was way before the pandemic. So, we just weren't used to connecting to people on the internet. At least I wasn't. But you were kind of like my introduction to that. And you were just such a world-class standard of your own of like kindness and receptivity and collaboration and like actual friendship. It wasn't fake. So thank you.
I mean, to your credit, though, my introverted Cancer sun would never have got there if it wasn't for your Gemini forward-facing, we're going to be friends.
I know. Yes. That is where I'm certainly realizing as this being recorded during Gemini season, just how insufferable of a Gemini sun I actually am. But hey, I mean, I have the archetype for a reason. I might as well express it. There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, that brings me into the first thing that I wanted to have you do, which is to tell us your big 3. And if you want, not only the big 3, but like, tell me your favorite thing that shows up for you and your embodiment of it for each one.
Ooh. Okay. So I told on myself that I'm an insufferable Gemini sun sign. And I honestly think I was reflecting on this today because I had to go next door because my DoorDash was delivered to the wrong address. That like the Gemini sun gives me just a high comfort level talking to anybody about anything. Like, I just don't care. Like, if I got to talk, I'll do it. It just doesn't. And I also think that's like being a New Yorker, but that's a whole nother, you didn't ask about that. But that's a whole nother cultural context. And then I'm a Capricorn moon. And I think that what that gives me is just a really high level of emotion regulation. I mean, I certainly can snap and, get a little like emotionally activated around things, but it's so rare. More often than not, I'm pretty a steady Eddie. And I really value that about that particular configuration because there's some schools of astrological thought that would say the moon is uncomfortable being in Capricorn, whereas there's a lot of scientific and research-based evidence to support the fact that like emotional regulation and the ability to manage emotion rather than have emotion manage us is like an irreducible skill of individual and relational well-being. And then with Leo rising, I think that just makes me dramatic. And I love a bit of drama. I love drama.
I mean, that's the choreographed Instagram stories and reels. That's
okay.
Get those.
That's the drama, baby. And I think we have so much Leo energy happening now. I know you have a strong Leo signatures, and you can
I
totally
have
see that in your
Mercury and Venus. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I just think there's something incredible about Leo connecting me to like aesthetic drama. I love fashion. I love visuals. So yeah, those three.
Nice. I love it. I love seeing it all show up in you, but I particularly love every time you talk about your Capricorn moon, because this is just forming in my head right now. As a Cancer sun, first of all, the Capricorn is like opposite. And I feel like I'm always learning from the Capricorn ability to contain the emotions, because I'm just like, it's all out there.
Pisces moon too? Oh my God.
I know all of the emotions, all of the water, and like so much Scorpio and like my midheaven and like all kinds of so much water. I always tell people are like, when we talk about like earth and water, and I'm like, I have one planet and an earth and everything else is water, fire, and air.
We love to see it.
Just all over the place. But I love the duality in my mind. It's just coming to me that like, yes, the Capricorn is always my opposite and always learning from that energy. But the fact that I think yours is in a moon, which is a Cancer ruled planet, almost feels like it feels more accessible to me. Like it's like you're taking, I don't know, like it's like you're speaking my language, but in a different dialect.
Right. Yeah. Oh, okay. Or different accent.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and I think you're making me think about the Cancer Capricorn integration story, because I do believe that these are the signs that help us experience the subjective emotional landscape. I don't think Capricorn is just this predominant workhorse energy. I mean, I can certainly err there, but the symbol of the seagoat, the lower half of the fishtail, means that Capricorn can be with the water signs, but we just can't stay there. So we have an affinity and a resonance with each other, but you're right. It's the same language, just spoken in a different dialect and a different accent. 100%. Yeah.
And I love, and that's another thing that I just learned from your stories is that talk about the Capricorn seagoat, because I'd never thought of it that way. And it's
it is.
Right?
Yeah, there it is.
Such a handy visual aid that you have.
Yes, I know. Here we go. Yep, boom, boom. So that's where I can hang out with Michelle. And then this is where I need to go to work.
And then that's where you teach me something, because I'm like, what is this earth grounded? And I think I've had several readings with Colin, and one of the things that I think comes up multiple times, because I'm still constantly learning it, is the ability to create more structure and routine in my life. I think that's definitely mirrored back in Capricorn energy.
Yes. And it's amazing how we're so resistant to the and this is not just you, this is no sage on the stage stuff, like I am just getting this now.
For sure.
But we're so resistant to the simple, practical, free steps that for whatever reason we just don't want to operationalize. And that's the wisdom of earth. Life is complicated, spiritual truth is simple.
For sure.
And you inspired the Capricorn to fly out of my mouth. So if it just got like 10, 15 degrees cooler, I apologize. Oh my God.
I love it. No, it's great. So definitely if you are listening or watching this and you haven't checked out QueerCosmos on Instagram, go check out his stories. So in the topic of Gemini being sign of the twins.
Yes.
In doing a little like preamble research for this conversation in regards to witchcraft and tying it into astrology, I actually found that, did you know that in the Middle Ages, if a woman gave birth to twins, which you are a twin,
Gemini twin,
she could be accused of witchcraft.
Oh. Ooh.
So you have magical origins even throughout history.
Ooh. And you're making me think of, my mother would be a witch because she is so Cancer. Oh my God.
I love hearing stories of your Cancerian mom.
Oh yes. And like very sun in the 12th house. So that tracks. Wow. And what, a woman could be charged with witchcraft if her crops were growing
for everything.
Yeah, right. No, but I like that the twins.
You could speak your mind in any way and you would be witchcraft. But I just thought that was also, I have a connection to that because my mother is a twin as well. So
and what's your mom's sign? Is it Aquarius too?
She's a Scorpio.
Scorpio.
She's a Scorpio with a Cancer moon.
Oh, okay. Okay. So one with
love you. If you're listening with either of those signs, love you, love you, but it's a lot to do with it, mother.
Yeah, it would be. It would be.
She's probably listening. I love you.
Oh, we love you, Mom. We love your water energy.
It's a lot of emotions.
A lot
And
of
she herself
emotion.
would admit that growing up, she had a lot of emotions. So
Oh.
I get that energy honest. The other thing that I
Mhm.
was going to ask in regards to astrology is what, in your opinion, is the witchiest zodiac sign? And of course,
Ooh,
there's never an all-encompassing answer to any of these things.
right.
There are nuances, but if you were to give like a sort of blanket starters.
God, sorry to be this like Switzerland answer, but they all, for me, express their own magic, their own witchy flair. They really do. And I
That's
think that's
awesome, because my
that,
follow-up question was, or what qualities make each sign magical?
I, well, that's the thing. And Michelle, what's beautiful about this lens when you're perceiving other people is, frankly, I don't think there's anything witchier than a person expressing their astrology relatively unconsciously.
Mm,
That's witchy,
yeah.
right? So they're just kind of expressing and acting into their spiritual or astrological leanings. I mean, it just really creeps me out.
What
Like, and I'm still creeped out over it. Oh my
I would
God.
venture to say, if we want to get real, like psychological on it, that's because a person's magic comes alive when they're becoming the most authentic version of themselves. And I think we can
Bar none.
actually learn to
Yes.
kind of like put a mask over some of our astrology elements, whether it be consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah.
And so when
Yeah.
someone's just kind of living their authentic life, that astrology starts to like shine out. And that's also when your real magic starts to happen in the world too.
Yes, yes, because the astrology as a process for authenticity would say to someone like you with so much water in your chart, no, enjoy being a mermaid. You're not meant to fly. Go to the ocean. And then thus you process. And then it would tell me, what are you hanging out by the sea for? Go to the clouds, you know? And so when astrology does that, and then we experience through turning towards our astrology and then turning towards what it inspires us to do, the magic of the universe just kind of self-organizing and self-correcting to provide us with experiences of astrological authenticity. There is absolutely nothing like it. It really, I don't have the word for it. I don't, for the rest of my career, I'll try to understand what's the word for my emotion around feeling and observing other people be their astrology. I think awe is the closest one I've been able to like get to. And then there's just another emotion I feel when I watch the universe honor people who honor their astrology. It's just, ugh. So it's like awe for the person who steps into their natal chart, and then awe for the universe to provide the ecosystem for the astrology to manifest. It just blows my mind. It honestly, I love my job.
I mean, and I love that you love, and you can feel that you love your job and everything.
Oh,
And I love, first of all, I would like to pause for two things. One is unrelated to our topic, and I want to come back to it. If
yeah.
anyone's listening and hearing little buzzing noises or kitten meows in the background, I'm dealing with the most noisy day.
I
They're doing
can't hear
it.
anything, but
Awesome.
Mars and Venus are in Leo. So if those noises weren't present, I'd be disappointed.
Fair. Yeah. They're doing renovations somewhere in my building, and I've just adopted two kittens. So they decided that they
Oh,
want to talk. They might even make an appearance up here at some point. Who knows?
that would make me so happy because I'm a new cat lover.
Yay!
Yeah, yeah,
I
I
love new
love
cat
cats.
lovers.
Love cats. Love them. I'm allergic though, Michelle.
Oh,
I
see,
know.
my previous cat who crossed over in the fall, it was what I would like to tell people maybe hypoallergenic, because I would have people say they were allergic and come over and like not be
Ugh,
allergic to her.
ugh. Oh
So
my
now I have
God,
to
that
get
would.
used to the fact that I can't necessarily say that because like these are new kittens and I don't know that. Because
We'll figure it
I'm used
out.
to using that argument, because a lot of times people that aren't cat people will just say that they're allergic.
I know. No, I know.
Or,
And my brother and I are bad, but my God, I love them. I love cats.
oh,
Anyway, yeah. I'm
yeah.
so happy for you that you have
Well, if
them.
they make an appearance, this will be a good
It make me
allergy-free way
so happy.
to
Yes.
interact with them. Um,
Yes.
so the other thing I wanted to come back to though is that like I love, first of all, your love for all astrology signs and the
Absolutely.
and I mean I think that's obviously what you're doing with Queer Cosmos. Oh, there was
No. Oh, yeah. No, the cat appeared. I love it. Okay. Uh-huh.
um there was that's that Leo energy.
Yes, exactly. Venus, Mars, and Leo.
Um
Let's do it.
it shines through in your readings, and I think you said something about like me being very watery and going to the ocean, and I think one of the things that I always talk you up as an astrologer is that you are so open to both the fluidity amongst like what you're working with in the chart, but then also like allowing people for both their strengths and their weaknesses to play out. And my favorite things is like when we've been talking about me and breaking down routines in our several readings that we've had, you've always offered me, I think at some point I was like, I kind of like sleeping in later. Like I'm not a like rise
Oh
at 6
yeah.
a.m. and grind. And you were like, you are a Cancer sun, Pisces moon, Aquarius rising. Sleep as long as you want and then get up and get to work.
Right. I don't care when you wake
you.
up. I know. I don't give a fuck if you wake up at 3 in the afternoon, but give yourself 45 minutes between 3 and 3:45 where you're not doing anything but connecting to your creativity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that repeats in my mind over and over. That serves me very well in
Oh,
cultivating a routine for myself, is like your voice.
oh, oh, thank you. Yeah, this is what I love about this system is it just allows me to the best of my capabilities, and I don't always get it right, but just individualized support, individualized assessments, because we're not one size fits all. There's so many different combinations. And so I have to interpret the best astrological approach to support people on their goals, and so knowing your chart, yeah, it would not be the same for mine, for someone else's, and that's okay. And we have to remain as objective as possible to make sure that we're providing support that works for just your astrology and no one else's. Yeah, it's such a blessing.
For anyone that hasn't ever experienced Colin or his readings or the stuff that he has online or his amazing writing, you do such a beautiful job of combining astrology, which is what people would kind of feel like a little untethered, with psychology and relationship psychology. And
yes.
I am a nerd for both of those things. So
yeah, you are.
The thing that you do so much better than I ever could, though, which is that Gemini communicator, is being able to really properly source your.
I love it.
Like listening to you sounds like listening to a research paper, like a college level research paper on astrology and relationship psychology. And I think that's so beautiful.
Funny.
Because my water sign is like, I know I heard this somewhere. I have no idea where it was, but I'm going to share the information with you anyway, because this is how it made me feel. Like that's how my translation is.
And baby, like, could you teach any other way? No.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're not, and it doesn't make yours any less valuable or mine more. No, it's
but
just
it's also a great counter to my daily diet of media to have someone that is presenting something in a way that's a little more structured than what I personally would. So I love that.
Well, and I also think thank you for saying that. And there's many reasons why I do that. I think attribution is political, attribution is activism. There are so many Black women, especially, who provide incredible genius, and then it gets attributed to others. That happened to Sonia Renee Taylor, who mentioned that we need to not go back to normal because normal never was. And then it got attributed to Brene Brown, and then they had a conversation about it. So there's a lot of reasons why I try to do that. And also, I sort of want content creators, because I think that's what we can call ourselves, I want them to let themselves off the hook, to feel like they need to generate something that no one has ever said before in order to put something out into the world. I mean, nothing is new under the sun. So if we just sort of acknowledge, hey, this scholar, this teacher, this author, this whoever mentioned this, and then isn't that wonderful? And now here's my interpretation of that. Like, that's analysis.
Yeah.
And I don't want I don't want people to feel like they have to have this incredibly exceptional, never before crisp thing. I mean, it's certainly that can be an effective winning strategy, but it's not necessarily what we need to do before contributing. Yeah. So, the cat has joined. So anyway, that's why I do that too, because I don't want anybody to feel like they have to be this generator of absolute unexpressed information before they put it out. No, not at all.
And that's honestly what society should be, is presenting of ideas and being able to talk about them and translate them in our own realm and our own psyche and our own spectrum.
Discourse. Yeah.
And I think that's, again, it's so fitting for your mission that is how you present the information, because I think that is definitely what we need in order to have these conversations and to make sure that everyone's connecting in a way that feels like we're attributing to the proper people.
Yeah, because if they generated it, like, absolutely. And then we get ourselves off the hook by pretending that we need to be these all-knowing energies. No, reference others. Like, make it collaborative, bring people in. I love this. And it does crack me up that people tend to, and I'm honored by it, but people tend to like reinforce how glad they are that I cite my sources. It cracks me up. I love it. We're all little nerds, I think.
Yeah.
So
Well, and then also there's so much
oh
misinformation
my
online these
God.
days that it's
Oh,
always nice
that,
to
yeah,
be
there
able
you
to like
go.
check to see where
There
something
you
is
go.
coming from. So yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. Come
It's
on.
true. Oh, bye, kitty, but not really. Stay with us.
I know
Okay.
we're gonna be on the lap for a while.
All right. Good. Good.
This is Bane,
I'm so
everyone.
jealous. Oh, I'm so jealous.
All black. He doesn't talk about witchcraft. He's my little all black cat,
Oh,
all black familiar.
you are so lucky.
I know,
Damn. Okay.
right?
Damn, damn,
You
damn.
are a
Okay.
lucky kitty.
Yes.
And then I also have one that's got like color point markings, but she's a little shyer, so she probably won't be up here. But
Yeah, not a Venus, Mars, Leo. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. Actually, they're both Pisces babies.
Oh, I love
Right?
it.
So
I
I
love
got my
a good
Pisces,
moon sign.
and my last cat was also, I found out very late in her life, likely a Pisces. So
Like the Pisces.
I mean, I am a sucker. So actually, tangent, but relative tangent. I find, my personal opinion is that if you can find someone that has the sun sign that is your moon, or vice versa, that is like such a soul bond.
Oh,
Because I'm
I
a sucker
just had
for
a
it.
reading with the Capricorn. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just had a reading with one. I'm like 100% immediate. Yeah, that's my twin sister and her husband. That's my mother and her husband, my father. Yeah, no, that's 100%
Yeah.
absolutely a beautiful indicator of
Most of my
compatibility.
exes have been Pisces, and like
Oh yeah.
it's just I gravitate towards that Pisces. And I was explaining it actually to one of the exes recently, where I was like, it's because not an astrology person, but I was like, it's because like what I bury with it and what I feel at the most centermost core of my being, the Pisces suns are shining a light on with every element
Absolutely.
of what they're doing in the world. And so I feel I can not only relate, but I also feel seen in a way that I'm not seen in some other situations. Like it's like the seen at the most deepest part of my
Ooh.
core.
Have you ever dated another Pisces moon? Woo!
Yes. Well,
Okay.
it was a weird situation. It's a situationship more
Yeah,
than dating.
situationship. Got it.
But
Yeah.
there was like a different bond. And then I do have a really good guy friend who also has a Pisces moon, and there is
Yeah.
a deep, deep connection.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
From
yeah.
sun moon to moon moon. I mean that, oh boy. And this is what I love about astrology too, is it just creates more context around the story of
Yes.
one's dynamic. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it.
So I do want, before we move on too far, speaking of black cats, he looks a little like Salem on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and you have a special relationship with the city of Salem.
Yes.
I was wondering if
Yes.
you could talk a little bit about that, like what started it, because you go on like a yearly pilgrimage,
Yeah, I
right?
try to go all the time. I try to go all the time. So back in 2015, which is bizarre because I'm pretty sure we're about to have Venus retrograde in Leo. And the very first time I went to Salem, we planned it during the last time Venus was retrograde in Leo, this summer of 2015. So this is weird that you asked that.
Anniversary.
Yes. So I was a second year grad student at Parsons New School for Design, and a friend of mine was writing her thesis, her name is Tansy Stoll, on the way that witches would use fashion to glamour themselves and what was the role of fashion within the practice of witchcraft.
Yeah.
And so she decided to go for Halloween 2015 and bring everybody with her. So we rented a house, me and our friends, and we had the best time. And then we went back a few months later when it was off season, and just kind of had the whole place to ourselves. And so it just became this incredible adventure for the both of us, because we were in New York City, so it's only a 5-hour bus ride. It's not too bad. And then sadly, she passed away the summer of 2017. And so Salem now is both like mystical and magical, and then also deeply paranormal, because I can feel my friend's spirit so strongly there, and other places too, but especially in Salem. And I love that city. And the last time I was there, I went with a friend who I went with originally, and I got to officiate a wedding on Halloween, which was unbelievable. And it's just one of those places where, you know, even though a lot of its historical significance is almost commercialized because so many of the witch trials actually happened, you know, miles away, right? So Salem as a witch city only became so significant because of the show Bewitched, right? If I'm understanding the history correctly, right? So even though like it's more kind of commercial and very kind of more dramatic in its presentation, which I absolutely love.
A very heavy energy.
Exactly, right? No, you still feel
Yeah.
it when you're there. So it could just be a combination of what happened around the corner in the 1600s, why people are drawn to these places. And I think what we all have in common with this story is, you know, people who have felt prosecuted because of their otherness. And then rather than feeling prosecuted because we're different, what if we find power in the difference, in the otherness, in that celebration? And so, yeah, every time I go back, it reinforces my convictions to this work. And then it also reminds me of just like, frankly, how mystical my life has become and how grateful I am for that, because I'm a young gay boy who came of age in the 90s, who loved Charmed, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, you know, all those paranormal things that, even though I didn't have the language for it, I connected to that archetypal analysis of the witch, of the person who used what made her different as a source of magic. And I knew my sexuality was different, but I couldn't think of making my source of magic. So yeah, when I'm back there and I'm connected to that energy, it heals the inner child. It reinforces how grateful I am for this work. And I just am so thankful. Yeah, that's my long answer.
No, I love that. And I, for anyone that's listening just audio, you missed all my Cancerian, like emotional face reaction to
Cancerian about this.
and
Oh my God.
and spiritual friends and all of the faces were
yeah, your Aquarius rising was like community, friendship, activism. I love it. Yeah, no.
Love, romance, all of the things. Yeah, no.
Have you been yet? I'm not sure.
I've been once, and it was it was again, we were talking before we officially started the podcast about different locations having different energy for different people. And I do love Salem. For me as an empath and an energy healer, a lot of really heavy energy came back with me, and it took me like I had like a cold, like a chest cold, and like there was there was some stuff. So I enjoy it. I feel like it's one of those places that I have to do sparingly.
Yeah, I respect that.
Like it's definitely, I mean, first of all, I'm a vegan, and they have some really great vegan restaurants there. So
do they? In Salem?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you know, witchy alternative culture tends to
that's true.
to veganism. So I went and visited and did kind of like the more touristy type stuff, like you know, like tours and museums and things like that. And of course, posed with the bewitched statue.
You have to. You have to. Samantha Montgomery. Yeah, Samantha Montgomery. Where would we be without her?
Yeah, and then came back. For me, magical cities, New Orleans has more of a pull and a lighter energy for me than. So if I'm gonna go like witchy magical, I usually go to New Orleans.
Which I've heard is the Salem of the South.
It is. Have you ever been there?
No. I know. Maybe because my being from New York, it's like there's such a pull to the Northeast, you know, but I'm dying to go to New Orleans. Everybody told me I would love it. No, I know.
I mean, you might thrive in like Mardi Gras. I usually go right around Mardi, just like when I went to Salem, I think I went in November. So I like went right around the peak season, but not like at the peak season. So like I usually try to get out of Chicago in February if I'm going to go somewhere, and then go someplace slightly warmer. And so
slightly in Massachusetts,
I mean, the NOLA trip was when I went to.
Oh, there we go.
So, but then I went, and it was gray and rainy the entire time that I was there. The first, I've been twice, something like that. I used to try and go every year, but I think I've been twice. It's a different kind of magical energy, but I definitely feel like 100%. For me anyway, it's lighter. Yeah.
Oh,
maybe
noted.
up in New Orleans.
I would love that. I have a Taurus friend there. Yeah. And I have a few other clients who live there, and they're just like, you need to get your ass down here. So, all right. Another reminder.
It'd be a fun place. You have a good energy for New Orleans, I feel like. You should
Oh,
go
I
do
hope.
like some event or something.
That would be so cool. Yeah. And it would just be nice to experience the American South's dimension of mysticism. Like that is so cool to me.
Yeah.
Even though I know it's largely informed by like sort of Caribbean, African, Haitian influence. Yeah. So it's very cool.
Because that's obviously not my back. Like I would be more the European Salem side of things.
Yeah.
Emotional connection to it. But something about that type of magic really like did for me.
I'll get my ass there.
Yeah, you definitely should. Okay, so speaking of love of 90s witches, we are going to do a little fun adventure, and this is going to be a bonus episode. So listeners, watchers, you're going to have to go to a different episode to hear the results of this, but we are going to pull a card from the Total Betty Goddess deck, which is the second edition of the deck that I created, which is 90s icons playing goddesses, and we're going to give Colin his totem goddess. We're going to have a little chatty chat about whoever 90s icon comes up. So we'll see if it's something familiar. Without further ado, let's dive into that. Stay tuned this Thursday for Colin's bonus mini-sode, where we'll talk about his Total Betty Goddess card, the card he wanted to get instead, and psychic emoji readings. You can find out more about Colin on his website, www.colinbedell.com, or by following him on Instagram at QueerCosmos. This episode of Please Donate the Sage was brought to you in part by my Patreon members. So I'd like to thank Ashley, Laura, Caitlin, Amanda, and Karen. If you'd like to join their ranks, you can do so over at patreon.com/Michelle Shea. You can also support this podcast by pre-ordering your own copy of the Total Betty Goddess deck, or head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review.